Thank you so much for joining. Um,
You're welcome.
yeah,
How are you doing?
we're doing great. It's raining here in Washington, D.C. You're in Portugal,
Portugal, Lisbon, yeah.
in Lisbon. That's really good. How did you and Ram first connect with each other?
We met through Instagram, actually.
Yeah.
During the pandemic, he was searching for someone to to work on Lila Star, and he saw one drawing of mine that kind of resembles a little bit the features and what he envisioned for the character. So basically, he dropped a message, and we started talking, and I was interested in the project, and the rest is history.
That's very cool. I mean, Many Deaths of Layla Starr has been one of our best-selling comics at the shop for the last, I don't know, 2+ years. Um, we carry the hardcover and the paperback. It sells really well. Do you see this book, Rare Flavors, as like a spiritual successor to Many Deaths of Layla Starr?
I think it's more as it's a different theme, and I think it brings a different perspective on the human spirit. So Lila Star talks a little bit. I'm speaking on my view on it. Ram will probably have another one, but my view on this is the take of being and respect and keep alive the culture of the memory. And through food is the easiest way that I know. Even for me, it's working on this project. It's been the process of going back to the memories of my aunts and my grandfathers and my all the people that I know that was elder, and they cook really well, like this special salad from the south of Portugal, or these kind of little things that are really important in a subconscious level, but brings us together, and it's all around the table. And I think Rare Flavors, the plus point is that kind of puts everything in perspective in these terms.
Yeah, that's. I mean, had you done a lot of food drawing before doing this comic? Um,
No, at all. Uh,
so is there you do a lot of research and stuff to draw? I mean, to draw all the dishes that are in here, and how did you? I mean, I guess did Ram just give you a list of here's all the dishes I want to do? You look up how to make them. Did you eat all the foods in this book?
Not the books, but I've eaten or I hate some of the recipes. Actually, I've done it, and some other I knew because I love Indian food, and actually I love food in general, but Indian food is one of my favorites as well. And I mean, drawing food is a little bit like drawing stuff that kind of can be not appeal, but if you make an effort to give the other side of not the sexiness of it, but give the other senses a little bit of like the smoke, the coloring, the that kind of puts is like advertisement almost. It's like those illustrations from the 50s and the 60s about food and the perfect chicken and this kind of stuff. So I did a lot of research in this kind of French menu cuisine, and then of course for all the elements that makes the composition of an intricate Indian plate or Indian recipe. Ram helped me a lot. Also helped me a lot going back to my folder of photos of when I went to India as well. So it's
That's
a
very
very thing. You know.
that's very cool. Something that kind of immediately stuck out to me was the way the recipes are integrated into the storytelling of the comic. Could you talk a little bit about how you approach like the page layouts and how, I mean, because I would imagine that they feel very integrated together, the storytelling and the recipes. It's not just like here's the recipe and here's the story. it's very organic as far as like the characters will be talking about the dish, or somehow it's connecting to the themes of the story, as you're showing the recipes.
Yeah. So I mean, Ram kind of did all the inception. My job was to make them fluid enough so the viewer can float into the story, but at the same time can dig in the different subjects that the story is talking about. So that was the main goal and the main difficulty to work on this, especially because each chapter had like a 2 to 3 inceptions, and then for different spots and with different characters, different moods. Some were in night, some were in the day, some were in the summer, some were in the winter. So all this composition was kind of a challenge actually. But I think the job is done. I think you can feel after you read a chapter, you can feel the characters, you can feel the inception, and you can feel the communication in between all of them.
Yeah, I would agree. And then, I mean, aside from the food, I feel like Ruben uh is kind of he's centrally featured in almost all of the issue covers. A lot of the marketing for the book is around his almost like his character design, as this huge imposing character. Um, and it seems like you had a lot of fun drawing him. Uh,
Yeah,
could you talk about his inception as a character design?
yeah. I mean, in the beginning, Graham's view of the character was a little bit more like a classical uh, big guy, more shoulder squared guy, more like an elegant gentleman. And my feeling of it was that I would like to keep that gentleman vibe, but I mean he's a demon and he loves food, so I wanted to see it immediately, and I don't wanted to portray him like a fat guy. I wanted to portray him as somebody that enjoys life. So he's bigger than life, like in Ram's description as well. So my goal was to keep him simple in a way. So the eyes were just like a layer to unveil a little bit the demon side of him. And basically was just to play a little bit with the suits and what like a Porco Rosso suits a little bit. And I don't know if you guys seen the animation.
No.
Porco Rosso from Miyazaki.
What?
No,
Oh, Poco Rosso. Yeah. Oh,
Porco
yeah.
from my Portuguese take on the title, but
Oh,
Porco
yeah.
Rosso is like a the vibe, the vibe of
Yeah.
he's a gentleman. He's a guy that knows how to behave. He knows to be surrounded with different people in different situations and contexts. And I wanted to give this look as well. And basically, was I kind of had the feeling of him. There is a Portuguese artist as well that was kind of he's like a big guy in Europe, and he's this kind of like when he talks, everybody's listening. And I wanted to portray him a little bit like a guy that speaks with a hand, like almost like an Italian guy, but not to exaggerate it.
Yeah.
To block all the picture because it's so huge. But I mean, it was just to I had a vision, and the vision was kind of direct. I didn't I worked more towards like the hair, how we did the ponytail, the glasses, and how everything was together. Yeah.
Yeah. Something else that's striking, I believe you colored this book yourself, right? And you have a pretty signature color palette between this and also Many Deaths of Lala Star. Could you talk about your approach to color in general and also for this book specifically? Because there's some very striking color choices here. Um, Yeah, and then also your use of shadows to me is like incredible through the whole thing. Both like on you got the first cover where his eyes are in shadow, but also you have a lot of pages where it's just like the sunlight is coming through the window and you can see it reflected on the characters, the shadows, and it's something that seems like you didn't need to do it, but you did, but you did it anyway, and it looks fantastic.
Yeah, because I think I mean, it's like let's think about when you see a movie in black and white, takes you immediately for an intimate place, or for a old times place, or for a different context where you are, because it's like our vision of old, you know. So colors have another feeling to humans when we see them. So if you see like a really bright colors, you imagine it's hot. When you see like really cold colors, you imagine it, or you feel it's cold. So I really like to play with colors, not in the traditional way, but I want to give the feeling of what is written. And especially here, what I wanted to do with the coloring, because without it, I think it would not be possible to have the same vibe, is that I wanted to awake a little bit the other senses for the fact that we are talking about food. I wanted to the viewer or to the reader to imagine what is the food tastes like, you know, and the coloring totally helps with it. And of course, I exaggerate because it's India. I don't know if any one of you have been in India, but India is such a colored country, and I'm always, I mean, Lila Star and Rare Flavors takes place in India, so they are both really colorful. But the difference from, for example, Lila Star or Rare Flavors is that Rare Flavors, the color works more towards just the senses of the nose, and it's more like the flavor. It's more. I wanted the key is the storytelling, but the food as well. In Lila Star, it's much more about the storytelling. It's like the party situation is really bright colors. Or I was playing a lot with the sense of sunset and sunrise. So it's different. Here is much more, everything is much more bright. And I work with the colors as well. And it's my take on color is to work for example, I think it's in the fifth chapter, to tell the reader how the time is passing. So the sun is going down and it's going down and it's going down and until the night. So yeah, color is it's fun to work with.
Yeah, yeah. And you do a lot of crazy different proportions because you've got Ruben, who's this gigantic character, and then you have Mo, who's super skinny, and then even Dilkush and Dilshan, the demon hunters. You got the tall one and the small one. Uh, I mean, how much like pre-production design work do you do before you start on the comic? And is it pretty easy to come to the designs for all of these characters?
For Dilshan and Dilkush, Ram gave me like some Bollywood movies from the 80s, I think, to check on some characters for some vibe of some characters. But it's like it's the classic. It's two friends or two. It's a team. One is tall, the other one is short. If you add the short to be funnier and the tall guy be quieter, you know, if you add like all these layers, you start to build like something that kind of as the bridge to being funny. So this book has all these a little bit these little bridges to put you in perspective of this can be like funny as well. How the story is telling.
So Ram's not here on the call, but I'd like to ask you a couple of story questions, and you tell us your interpretation. Uh, so the kind of the inciting incident for the whole story is the death of Anthony Bourdain, I guess. Um, and I guess we were talking about this before we got on the call. Our understanding is it's kind of that Bakasura is off doing his own thing, and then once Bourdain dies, he gets this inspiration to make the documentary. And then at the end of the whole story, he kind of goes back to where he started and he gives up eating people. And it's almost like I don't know. Is it a sad ending for him?
It's a what?
I don't, I mean, how do you see I don't know, like his reasons for even doing everything he does in the story?
I think it's culture. It's like when you see someone that does something that appeals to you, or like for example, if you're a book owner, if you go to Europe, you see a really nice bookshop, you'll feel inspired. Imagine if you build I don't know, communication with the owner of the shop, or even if it's just as a customer. When it disappears, it moves you because when you when you like something, you consider it to be there not forever, but for you're not expecting it to disappear. You know, like I lived in Hong Kong, and something was happening all the time when I was living there because I was living in this really Chinese neighborhood where the shops changed dramatically, like from one day to the other. So I remember going to this restaurant, and the next day it's not a restaurant; it's a laundry. And I go to the grocery store. The grocery store is now a restaurant, and the grocery store is on the other side of the street. So it kind of gives you different. You need to take in consideration your world, and your world is built on characters, icons, or the things that you put value into. So I think for for Bakasura to see the death of Anthony Bourdain is like the wake up call because even for all of us, I mean, I like food. I always seen his shows. It's shocking. It's like the death of Michael Jackson. Or Kobe Bryant, or these kind of icons that die in an age that they still have time. I mean, Anthony Bourdain was older, but he still had time, you know. And I think it's a wake up call. That message actually is it's nice because I think it's a wake up call for the sense of culture, and culture is just transmitting to the others, you know. So I think that like going back to the beginning, what I was saying about the foods, and going back to my family as well, and organizing the old recipes with my aunts and my uncles, that each one does a different thing, is kind of regarding that very moment of Bakasura getting inspired from someone that was doing something, he's not doing it anymore, so he's taking the wheels now and he's doing his own thing. And I like that message, and I think it's powerful. And if we jump out of comics and we put this in our personal lives, we can. It's like a little seed in terms of what we can grow to the future for our future family, or for our community, or whatever.
Yeah. I guess changing gears a little bit. I was wondering for you and Ram, this, I mean, you're in Portugal and he's in the UK, but this is an American industry versus.
Sorry, I'm sorry. You need to
Sorry,
repeat.
let me repeat. How is it for you as a European artist working in the American comic book industry versus if you decided to do the same thing in European comics? Because it seems like a very different industry in a way.
Well, in terms of in terms of numbers, totally. In terms of interest, a little bit more or less. I mean, nowadays it's everything is. I mean, that except maybe superheroes that is really American vibe. Like American stories sells well in Europe, and probably the opposite no. But so for me, it's really easy to it's common to consume American shows or American films or American comic books. Probably the other way around. No, so it's just probably for you it's kind of weird to have all the white in terms of the layout of the page. For example, I work in a traditional European way with the white margins and all that. So I don't like to put panels over other panels. I like the rhythm to be like maybe old Italian movies, like this rhythm, small rhythm, slow rhythm, and then when you need to push, you push. But in terms of in generally speaking, I tend to do the things a little bit slower than probably I used to do in Marvel, or because the stories is like you need to punch someone and then he's rushing to grab other things and then he flies and then he arrives and then somebody is getting destroyed. It's always like this cliffhanger thing that Europe is a little bit different, but we are used to it. And the markets are different, but actually the market in US, from my understanding, is getting a little bit lower. And in Europe, in Europe it's hard to say, but in France, that is the biggest market for comics in Europe, is growing a little bit, even if it's with manga, but it's growing a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, we've been talking about that a lot ourselves at the store because here in the US, a lot of the big bookstores now the manga section is like 4 times bigger than the American comic section. Which is really cool. The kids these days have more access to more manga, but then it makes me wonder about like the future of American comics in a way.
It's a way. The American comics actually they're great now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things producing really nice books. The books are going to TV series. The TV series, if they are really connected with the books, the books still sell. So it's a strong industry. There's ups and lows. Probably we'll never get back to the 90s, but the 90s was an exception. But speaking from someone who's coming from a no market in terms of comics, such as Portugal, America is really good. It's good. And I feel that in terms of art and in terms of stories, it's still doing really well. The indie market is getting huge. It's really good stories there. Probably the DC and Marvel are going to this kind of. That's what I felt when I was there. There was the storyline was always a little bit the same. It's kind of this repetition and so on. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 'cause I guess when I think about how it being an American comic will affect the way you make it, I think a lot about the fact that you do it in the monthly single issues first and then put it in the graphic novel because I guess if it was a European comic, I don't, is it come out as the album first or I guess they would do it all at once.
It works different, Jacob. There is because it's marketing. So Americans great in marketing. So you have the floppies. The floppies have variant covers, and then if this sells well, you put it like in a you put it like in a hardcover book or softcover book. It sells better hardcover. In Europe, it's straight hardcover, and that's it because
Yeah.
it's the culture of the book is different. It's not just the culture of comic books. Comic books in Europe usually comes with the whole story. It's the whole
Yeah.
thing.
But then
We
I imagine that both of your books with Ram, I would imagine that the paperback would sell, like, made more money than the single issue sales, just because then it can be in more bookstores and stuff. When you're first putting together the book, are you thinking about the storytelling in terms of the individual floppies, or are you all from the beginning? Are you thinking about how it will read as the collection at the end?
you have to think about it. this kind of stuff, because you end with a little cliffhanger. So there is something there. When you have like a 100 or 200 or whatever number of pages European comic book has, it's the whole story. So the rhythm is different. There will be cliffhangers on the way, but there is not respecting these 22 or 25 or 30 pages per issue. So you have to respect that. But it works well. I can show you, for example, this. So you guys see the difference. Just we are talking about this. So this is the American soft cover, all right, and this is the French version of the book.
In French.
The size comparison.
The French version looks a lot better.
Different. So you don't bring this to the train or something like that. You read at home when you arrive. You read it on the table, so it's different. It's like a coffee table book or pocket book. The user experience is different. But I feel like, for example, for Lila Star or for Rare Flavors as well, bigger the better. It works better. Like it's bigger. I'm trying to find the same page just so you see the. Yeah. So it's different, you see. Much you read it well, it reads more. So little things, the little differences, like in Pulp Fiction movies.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about just like your biggest artistic influences and the stuff that gets you to draw the way that you do? Because it's very distinct, and I think for a lot of people picking up these books, I mean, aside from the storyline, I think your art and the colors are an immediate draw for people.
I grew up not reading comics, so there's a barrier there, kind of like the gap. So I just read my first American comics I was like 13, 12, 13, and then I read in the same year one of my favorite books that is Ballade de Marfalé de Corto Maltese,
Yeah.
Ballade for Sea Salt, something like that. And I think it's like that in English. And then I grew up watching a lot of animation, so the movement and the fluidity of comes from animation. I did some animation as well, and I have a degree in sculpture. So when I started to work in sculpture, my drawing just changed because you observe in a different way. So I think what I like, for example, one of the things that I like that my work kind of resembles is the value of weight. You can feel the weight, you can feel the speed, you can feel I managed to have a style that I can work on all of these little things that are really important in there. So it's the grace and fluidity doesn't come from the comics actually. It's coming from observing and working in a different medium. But in terms of influence, straight influence for comics, I would say like Sergio Tocchi, the Italian master. Robert Valley is one of Peter Shane, of course. Yeah, these two, but of course I've loved other. When I grew up, when I discovered cliffhanger and image and stuff like that, I loved Joe Madureira. Nowadays it doesn't give me nothing, but when I grew up, I was really like a fan of this Capcom style and stuff like that. Ramos, I learned a lot about the the pace and the energy put like into his Crimson series. I don't know if you guys have read Crimson series. And then a lot of European comics as well, from the Italians, from the French, some Portuguese as well. But honestly, I don't concentrate much of my influences come from really from sculpture and from painting and traditional painting and stuff like
Cool. That's-
that. Yeah, yeah.
Especially thinking about how sculpture relates to the way that you draw your comic. Um, yeah. Could you talk at all about the things that you're working on right now, or things that you've got coming out soon?
No, I'm not allowed to say that. But yeah, so will be something this year as well.
Or anything like that that's been sorry, has there been
Sometimes the sound goes off.
yeah. Um, has there been any art that has been very inspiring to you recently, whether it's comics or other media?
Yeah, there's this really great book from a Spanish guy. So it's like uh, how do you call it? A neighbor country. The guy is the name of the artist is Mark Torices, and he did a book called Cornelius or Lopez Cornelius, and it's about this dog, but it's just the way that he does 500 pages in a completely different style from 30 pages to 30 pages. He changes styles and he does whatever he feels like it to like to, and it's really the story is it's really interesting and funny, but it's just he permits himself to do whatever he wants. You know, he did this before presenting the book. He did the whole 500 pages or something like that before presenting the book. So,
My God.
or 360 pages something. But it's like a big chunk. The cheeseburger, you know. Huge. And
Uh,
the book is probably completely different from what I do, and probably completely different from American readers read, but it's just to give you a different vibe.
yeah. Once we get off the chat, you can put in the link of the book.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Well, did anyone else have any other like questions that I didn't cover that much? Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us about it this
Yeah.
evening. Yeah, we really appreciate it. Can you all give Felipe a round of applause?